Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wednesday drawing session with me, Frank Cho. There is my trusty Pentel mechanical pencil with 0.7 HB lead and my kneaded eraser. And I will be drawing on my favorite paper, Strathmore Bristolboard 300 series with vellum surface. And here we go. Today, I'm going to draw Poison Ivy. She's one of my favorite characters in the DC universe. Something about her is so very sensual, very, just very iconic. Something about her is, to me, she represents kind of like the Mother Earth. So when I think of Venus, oddly enough, I think of, did I say Venus? When I think of Poison Ivy, I think of Venus, like the Botticelli's Venus, where she's coming out of the water. So that I had that image in mind, and so I decided to draw Poison Ivy in that very similar pose, where she's kind of like emerging from the forest. So I have her standing, and then she's kind of like almost like casually brushing her hair aside. Have her kind of like putting her arm back. So drawing the torso. So she kind of has this contrapostal stance, which is the weight is on one leg, kind of. So there I am showing, the figure drawing is essentially two triangles overlapping, two upside down triangles overlapping. So with that in mind, that's what I'm using that as a guide. So the upper torso is the first triangle, and the bottom, her hips, are the second triangle. So there I am drawing the arms. So there I was thinking about her just kind of leaning against this tall, thin tree, but I decided not to. Decided not to go with that idea. So for Poison Ivy, or actually just in general, for all my female drawings, the face is one of the most important parts of the female body that I really focus on, because everyone likes to look at a pretty face. So I got a rough placement of her eyes, nose, and mouth, and then I go in and kind of erase the guidelines that I put in earlier. So with Poison Ivy's eyes, I kind of like, since to me she's kind of sultry, So I kind of like her, almost like Marilyn Monroe eyes, where it's kind of like half closed to kind of give it that sultry, kind of sexy look about her. Since I'm right-handed, I tend to there is like a right hand lean when you draw certain things. So I try to be very mindful of keeping everything balanced. So there I am drawing the eyes. If you really look at it, is that I draw my eyes. They tend to be like very light colored eyes. So you draw like three lines in the eye, and that kind of like give you the illusion of the light color eyes. And the pointy elbow. This is the fun part, This is I am just kind of like figuring out the anatomy. Again, the female and the male anatomies are very similar, so it's once you have the basic anatomy down, you can then start kind of like stretching and pulling to distinguish, to separate the gender. So with guys, you have wide shoulders and narrow hip, and with the women, you have the narrow shoulders and the wide hips. There's the midline, which always helps figure out, the rest of the torso when you have the midlines. And I try not to put any six pack on a woman because that looks that's a very masculine feature. So with Poison Ivy is basically Mother Earth, so you want to make her as very feminine as possible. So as I'm drawing the leg, I realized I ran out of room to draw her feet. So I'm trying to think of how the hair is going to fall. Okay, this is me. I decided to kind of like untape the paper and just move it up. So I have some room to draw her feet. There it goes. That bottom line is a little guide mark that I drew when I started the camera. where the camera field of vision is. So there I am taping the paper back up onto my drawing board, my drawing table. So once I have the overall body shape down, now I'm just kind of figuring out the background. And with the poison ivy character is the reason I love drawing poison ivy is I love drawing plants and trees and flowers and and all that stuff. So I really have fun. You'll see. I'm just like I'm just like scribbling at this point. I have absolutely no map of a pre-planned composition that I have in mind with this poison ivy. I just wanted to draw like a bunch of plants and flowers and trees and logs in the background. So like I really did have Botticelli's The Birth of Venus back in my mind when I drew this. So I kind of wanted like the base of the figure to be, like a triangle composition where it kind of like triangles up into a point. But I add more to it so you have like more flair, kind of like an explosion of plants behind her. Like she's kind of like coming out of the bursting forth from like a woodland foliage. So now in the bottom of the where her feet are, I've only have like less than a quarter inch, not a quarter inch, but less than a half an inch beyond the feel where the camera ends. So I hate drawing all the way to the edge. It's a pet peeve of mine. So where her toe is, that's where I feel comfortable stopping. So I'm just giving like a rough shape to her hair as it cascade down from her shoulder and onto her bosom. Now, when I draw hair, I kind of treat it as like 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 clothes. So don't worry about the individual strand. You just want to get the overall shape down. The overall shape is more important than agonizing over individual strands of hair. So I lightly erase the hair once I kind of have the rough shape down, and then by erasing it, it leaves like a faint underdrawing, and also at the same time getting rid of all the stray marks. So I'm doing that with her arms right there too. So poison ivy has these like really beautiful wavy hair, which are which is really fun to draw. I'm just reinforcing the outline of the overall body. So at this point, I'm trying to figure out the her crown of flowers and plants on her hair, which is a very pagan thing, which reinforces the Mother Earth pagan kind of symbol. And I just like women with hair, with flowers, with a crown of flowers and plant in their hair. I've always liked that. I don't know why. I guess I've always found that beautiful on a woman. It's just weird. It's almost like I've always enjoyed those pre-Raphaelites illustrations and paintings of women with plant in their hair. Especially, I guess I really love. I guess that's why I really love John Waterhouse paintings, because there's a lot of women in nature with flowers in their hair. Now, there is no rhyme or reason when it comes to drawing the plants in the hair. I was just adding, the bits of leaves and flowers wherever they're needed, that I felt needed, just purely from composition. So I'm erasing some of adding the swirls and the waviness of the hair by erasing it. Just kind of giving her a darker eyelashes. So here I am drawing her outfit, which is a bunch of ivies, like a one-piece bathing suit. So if you notice the ivy pattern, it kind of like fans out from a center point, which is right in the middle of her torso, roughly. Right around her at the bottom part of her cleavage, and it kind of like it fans out. That's the pattern that I've always used, and I feel that works the best when designing the pattern on a poison ivy suit. Just lost the lid there. And I just remember like the classic Poison Ivy has her ivy, kind of like ivy vines, just kind of like wrapped around her wrist and ankles. So that's why I always like that too. I've always thought that that design is very keeping up with her nature theme personality. And also, it kind of breaks up that large white space in her arms and legs by having like like having the vines wrap around her. I'm redrawing her legs a bit, make it tighter and cleaner. So when you draw a figure like Poison Ivy, you want her legs to kind of have the hips flare out, and then it tapers down into her her legs. Now here comes the fun part. As I said, I have no idea what to do with the background, so I am just filling in space with branches and trees and stuff like that. So I originally wanted her leaning against a tall, skinny tree right in the middle, but I decided it didn't quite, I didn't think it's gonna look right. So at this point, I'm just kind of like playing around, just adding different twisty shapes in the background with the trees and the branch. So so this is just I'm just making things up as I'm drawing, and I decided to draw these like big giant leaves in the background. So this is the part that I'm actually have fun because I am with Poison Ivy character figure. I kind of knew what the figure was going to look like. I've already had an image in mind, which was Botticelli's Birth of Venus, kind of very similar pose, or that idea in mind. But with the background, all that trees and all that, I'm just like winging it. I actually didn't wasn't really planning on drawing the background when I started this drawing, but decided it's Poison Ivy. She needs to be like surrounded by plants and flowers and all that. So at this point, I'm just like just throwing out shapes, you know. And then I kind of like give her like have her top half of her figure to be lit and the bottom half to be kind of in in the shadows. So there's like a spotlight approach, like a spotlight composition, which I've always liked. I've always liked that kind of like the spotlight. I've always lit up the area that I want people to focus on, which is her upper half, her face, and her torso. You know, and the lower half, I just wanted to just kind of melt in into the background. So I love drawing these twisty logs and moss and stuff like that. I've always loved the jungle scene. I don't know why. It's might have been because of King Kong, O'Brien's King Kong. Just see these like dinosaurs and King Kong in the jungle kind of fighting, and just surrounded by this lush forest, wooded area, forestry, and all that. So I'm doing the same thing here. So I'm adding the poison ivy vines wrapped around her legs, give it her the more almost like a pagan look about her. Again, at this point, I'm just like winging it. So just I kind of love how that log is kind of like slanting down. There's always a famous mushroom. I mean, Frank Frazetta and Al Williamson just did absolutely beautiful trees and foliage and mushrooms and all that. And so I've always drawn inspiration from them when I'm drawing these this nature stuff, because it's just fun. It's just like just you just have fun just knocking out these textures. And then you get these like big giant oddball plants, almost like cabbage, or like in a very giant overripe pomegranate fruit. So this is where I have most fun when I'm drawing stuff like this. I'm just like winging it, winging it, trying to get a interesting shape and composition out of it. Since she's the main figure, I like to go in and kind of reinforce the line, the overall outline of the figure, just kind of to have her stand out from the background of the chaotic background. So drawing like a strong outline figure, that is something Alphonse Mucha, as a lot of people mispronounce Mucha. Alphonse Mucha would do. He was a absolutely brilliant Art Nouveau poster artist, and he would have a strong, thick outline on his main figures, which helped kind of like separate it from the background and also give it a clear visual figure to look at. So the thing about drawing these foliage and all that, I I often get lost in it, and I just like texture and noodle the hell out of it, which is which is fun, but at the same time, kind of like if you're on tight deadline, which is bad because I could spend hours on it. And then once I finish drawing it, I have to go back and ink it. So there's a lot of inking involved, which takes forever. So again, I am just making stuff up in the background as I go along. And also, if you notice, I kind of want the background kind of help with the composition by having all these plants and flowers and branches kind of like fanning out from the central figure, which is her. And it didn't work. So I actually kind of like stopped and looked at it and I said, that didn't quite work out. So again, this part is very important. Is this is a part that you have fun with. If it looks right, it's right. If it looks wrong, it's wrong. And if it looks wrong, then you just erase it and redraw it. So this pencil stage is always the most fun, uh, the most fun for me because I am constantly trying new things and trying to figure stuff out. Yeah, those ferns. Those ferns are always fun to draw. They get, just have like a really neat pattern to them. Once you draw enough of it, you could form like a really nice pattern. So with that slanting broken tree going that way on the right hand side, I felt that something was needed on the left hand side. And so I decided to draw Swamp Thing kind of poking out. And Swamp Thing is one of my favorite characters because I love Bernie Wrightson. And, a big giant plant monster. And there's two things I really love about Swamp Thing. Is one is a big giant monster, and two, I love drawing plants and stuff like that, and the all the organic stuff. So here I am just kind of drawing the Swamp Thing, kind of like in the background. So this is the Bernie Wrightson version, the version that I grew up with, or I loved actually. That I grew up with the Alan Moore version, which is more like a big giant heap of vegetation. With Bernie Wrightson, he's more of a more like a green zombie. So you can see all the musculature and all the decaying flesh, unlike the later version. So I'm drawing the. So once I drew the Swamp Thing head, I realized, this it looks a little too much. It's a little too much. It looks too human to kind of distract it from the Poison Ivy figure. So it was too distracting. The having another human element, human face in this composition kind of threw everything off and competed with Poison Ivy in the middle. So I decided to erase it and draw Man-Thing instead. And to be honest with you, I actually prefer drawing Man-Thing because he is such a grotesque, very unique looking monster, swamp monster. So again, Man-Thing kind of like checks off the two things about two things I like to draw is that the nature element and the big monster, hulking monster element. So drawing Man-Thing on the left hand side, it kind of helped balance the overall composition because it balanced out the broken tree on the right hand side and putting Man-Thing on the left hand side just overall just balance everything out. And that's something that you'll kind of learn, something that you kind of like figure things out, as you're drawing. I'm adding more foliage. Again, this is like I'm going down the rabbit hole with this foliage. I literally will spend hours just drawing little leaves and flowers and mushrooms and moss and tree branches and all that. Again, at this point, for the background, I'm not really trying to do anything fancy. Right now, I'm just like drawing out shapes and texture and shading. That's all I'm worried about. I'm not worried about figure work or anything like that. I'm just drawing nonstop. So problem is once I kind of get stuck in this loop of just noodling everything to death, I have to kind of force myself to stop at a certain point, because if I don't, it may be an overkill, and you'll just drown out the entire image. So figuring out when to just stop is is another something that also comes with practice and experience. Like eventually you figure out when is enough, and you need to just step back and just let the picture be. Yes, I decided to add a little lizard, little dinosaur, little lizard. Had drawing little critters in the background is always fun. It kind of give it that fun element. Just tweaking her lips and cleaning out some stray marks. Just reinforcing the shaded areas. Adding more leaves in her hair. Yes, I'm stepping back and looking at it to see if I miss anything. And I said, all right, so I need just to add more shading into her thighs and her legs. So there it is, Poison Ivy and Man Thing.